All right, let's go back to our phone lines. We've got Torquil Ratherdashing hanging on. What's up, Torquil?
Hey, guys.
What's up?
Nice to finally talk to y'all.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
I wanted to talk about some stuff that the 14 team could learn from WoW. I think my big issue is the scale, the scope of Eorzea doesn't increase during an expansion cycle.
It didn't. I think that's a little unfair to say about Heavensward, because we knew coming back into 2.0. First of all, in 1.0, we never had anything north of Korthus. We never had access to Ishgard. We never had any of that. So that they needed to pay off on that. First of all, we needed to go to Ishgard. We needed to be able to flesh out the areas around Korthus and north of Korthus. So
I think you misunderstood.
Okay.
So I meant like during Heavensward, like between 2.0 and 2.55.
Oh, okay.
And more than likely, 3.0 and 3.55, we get no new zones, we get no new raids.
Yeah, okay.
We're in the same spots the whole time. Whereas in WoW,
that's fair, yeah.
You get new zones, yeah. And my biggest thing is, you get new raids and new environments. Like, what really sucks, and I think is part of the reason Heavensward felt so stale, was because, the day Heavensward launched, we knew that, the raid we're getting tomorrow, over a year later, because we knew it was just going to be Alexander Part 3. Yeah. And I think it would be way more engaging if we had one slightly bigger raid with a great self-contained story, and then we could look forward to something new.
That's a great fucking point, Torquil.
Even when it comes to dungeons, we get one rehash as a hard mode,
right.
And even the new dungeon is still aesthetically the same as what we've been seeing. The only thing that's sort of been a mystery is what we were going to get out of Void Ark and Weeping City.
Not even that. Okay, yeah, you're right. Void Ark, Weeping City, that whole kind of raid extension, we don't know where the third part of that is going. That's fair. But Torquil's point of the fact that we knew it was a predetermined conclusion,
Alexander,
that right now we would be getting the third leg of Alexander. I think that that's a great point, and something that never even really occurred to me, because we had the same thing with Binding Coil. We sort of didn't know what to expect because we didn't know what to expect from the raid environment from Square Enix, so that was kind of unknown. But the minute that you have had this sort of the regiment around your raid environment, and you say, hey, yes, we're going to continue that on into the next expansion, and then you get Alexander Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, that is very underwhelming.
Especially
boring.
When you compare the entire raid life cycle of Final Fantasy XIV. So Alexander 1, 2, and 3, 4 bosses, 12 bosses total, right? Not even the first patch of World of Warcraft, just Legion dropping, has 2 raids. One of them isn't open yet. But between those 2 raids, you have 14 bosses. That's already more than 14 has in an entire expansion cycle, unless you count looking for raid, then there's another 4 or 12.
Now, Torquil, I want to ask you a question. If the 3 raids were completely disconnected from each other, right? Like if we got Alexander for one update, and that was Alexander was complete in those 4 legs, and then we moved on to the next thing. Like, if they had done the Warring Triad and presented it in a raid structure similar to how they're presenting Alexander, right? The end of each raid leg, you faced off against one of the Warring Triad. Would that be as satisfactory or even more satisfying than what we currently have with Alexander and this trisected raid structure?
I think it would be more satisfying. I think part of the issue now is you build up all this emotional investment to do these cliffhangers, and then it's 3 months, and interest kind of wavers off. Whereas if you went through all of the process of the Warring Triad in one slightly extended go, then you can build up that hype into like that narrative interest into like a much bigger crescendo, and have these great epic kind of endings to it.
And it wouldn't be sort of like a pre like a predisposition.
We know where we're going to end up.
A preconceived notion that part 3 is just going to be part 3 of this leg. And really to that end, we don't know where the third part of Void Ark is going. So we do know that they are able to present that sort of structure. But even if it wasn't necessarily intertwined, if they operated independently from each other, even from a narrative standpoint, is that still something that you're good with?
Yeah, I think actually I think it would be great to have, maybe you have one raid series, and maybe it's the 24-man, maybe it's not, either way, that is semi-connected, like the Void Ark one.
Right.
But in such a way that we don't know the exact location we're going to go.
Right.
The environments are different. That would be great, but then have, even if we had another raid structure similar to that, but we were going to different types of places that, and here's kind of the trick, just like with a movie trilogy, right? Ideally, the stories are all relatively self-contained, but they can link together into this bigger epic. And I think that's fine too.
Well, and especially if like with Alexander, you're going to be lifting those hard requirements to get from one leg to the other. They remove that with introducing story mode where you have to beat the first leg to be able to get to the second leg.
You know what I think their problem is, and I could be wrong, but just trying to theorize this, you have the binding coil, and then they wrote a story within that.
Right.
You have Alexander, they wrote a story within that. You have the Circus Tower or whatever it was, and they put a story
Crystal Tower,
and they put a story within that.
Sure.
It's like they're choosing where they want to go first, and that's dictating the story. And, the Binding Coil story was fine. The Crystal Tower was a little lacking, and obviously Alexander people have found to be a little bit lacking. Maybe what they need to do is figure out what their story is first.
Sure.
Write that with no restrictions, right? That way you're getting a great narrative, you're getting characters, you're getting plot points, you're getting all this awesome stuff that people are going to be in, and then design the raid around that.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, I think really anything to shake up the structure of the presentation at this point is going to be to Square Enix's benefit. Thanks, Torquil, for the call. We appreciate it.